Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Newcastle United podcast with GSPN. My name's Joel and I'm here to talk all things happiness about Newcastle v Leicester. I'm joined with two of my boys, the OG3 as we like to call ourselves. First up, we've got the Don, Mr. Ian McKay. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, although I don't really appreciate you referring me to OG, because I know you mean old and grey, don't you?
Aww. I didn't, but...
I'm joking, Joe. I'm fine.
We can mix it up, Ian. Come on.
There's no way Ian going to be offended at anything. I can't believe you fell for
He's
that.
not exactly. He's a wind-up, a permanent wind-up. Anyway, as you've just heard, the other one is obviously the other part of our... I was going to say three-legged there. That's a bit wrong. But yeah, the other part, the OG3. It is. It's just Kev. It's Kev.
Yeah, just Kev. Right? I'll take just Kev.
You can't be the third leg, dude.
We've got 6 legs between us. That's fine, right? You know, we haven't got 3 legs. It's fine.
Oh dear God.
Kev, anyway. what does your OG stand for, Kev?
Original gangster.
Original gangster.
Now I was told.
What about Michael's?
Original Graham's Law.
I was going to say original grump.
Ooh.
Hello, Michael. Happy Sunday evening to you, mate.
Oi, oi, oi.
We all love him, man. He loves a good rip. Right, I'll tell you what. Should we move on? Because otherwise we're just going to go down a road that there's no return. Right. Can we talk about yesterday, people? Or Saturday?
Absolutely.
Because we're now going to be listening on Monday, yeah?
That's what we're here for.
So basically... we were brilliant. We've wanted this to happen for months. Let's not exaggerate. Against so-called smaller teams, lower, bottom half teams, whatever you want to refer to them as. But yeah, look, the lads turned up, man, didn't they? We turned up to a point. I'll be honest, I think the lads were better than us at points because I thought the atmosphere was not as great as Liverpool. I'll be first to point that one out. However, it's more like I think as the game kind of grew, the fans kind of grew, and it all just rolled into one. But I'm not going to talk about us fans. I'm purely talking about the players. And I move on over the moon with pretty much all of them, I've got to be honest. We'll all know how much I love Murphy, so I had an absolute fit up in the stands when he scored his first one, pretty much followed by his second one as well. But I'm just so happy for the lad because to me, he's one of those players that he's not our so-called superstar players like Gordon and stuff. So when he does do amazing things, I think it just means that little bit more. And because he is... you know, a Toon fan for life, again, it means that little bit more as well, doesn't it? But that kind of leads me into asking... Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, it's not the first game where Jacob Murphy's appearance on the right wing has really benefited the team. I think it gives us way more balance than when we're trying to crowbar Anthony Gordon or Harvey Barnes down there. Fair play to Murphy. He scored 2 good goals. He missed 4 other good ones as well, but, you know, can't have everything.
But that's why he's not a superstar player, is he? That's what I'm kind of leaning
scoring
towards.
twice. It's only the second time that he's scored 2 goals in a game. Can you remember the other time?
Strange enough, Ian, you've just teed up the right to the end of the pod because I was going to ask that question.
Sorry.
So yes, of course I remember, Ian. It's fine.
You've already done the research, right? I'll shut up. I'll shut up and move on.
No, Kev, go on, answer it because I obviously know it anyway. But I knew this. If you remember, Kev's going to remember as well. Surely, when was Murphy's only ever brace for Newcastle?
I don't know.
Both in the first 10 minutes, Kev. You'll get it now.
Not long ago at all.
Not long ago. What, this season?
Big win.
No.
Last season.
Was it?
Previous season.
Oh,
how
Tottenham,
many matches?
Tottenham.
There we go.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Joe. Did I spoil it?
It's all right.
It
was really it was a 2-question quiz, and now I've got 1 question left. All right. That's great.
Okay.
Should we do the pod in reverse order?
I'll see if I can ask you that question before the end. Then. Sorry.
It's fine.
But well done, Jacob Murphy. That was what I was saying. Jacob Murphy gives us far more balance going down the right.
He does.
He should be rewarded for that.
I absolutely agree.
I still don't think he makes my top 3 in the game, though, even though he scored twice. He wouldn't be in my top 3.
He didn't, but again, we're doing this pod in reverse. So what I was going to do, people, we were going to talk about things we'll have most about yesterday, but we're not. We're going to talk about that at the end because Ian has absolutely flipped my whole plan on its backside.
I'm sorry.
So,
didn't mean
it's fine,
to.
Ian. I don't mind. You know I like a bit of winging it. So what we're going to do is we're going to wing it by I'm going to ask you that one and only other question I was going to do for the quiz at the end. See who can get it first. So obviously we've done the Murphy one. The other one goes back to Bruno. So Bruno's last goal at home was also a header on the 27th of April 2024. Who was it against?
Leicester.
Nope.
No.
His last goal, as in not the one that's just happened on Saturday, obviously. His previous one to
Was that his goal when he ran round the back? Was it when he ran round the back and scored the header?
The free kick
against Brentford,
the corner, whatever it was. Yeah.
It was 27th of April 2024. It was his last home. The last time he scored at St James's Park was also a header. Who was it against? You haven't said the right answer yet.
Have we not?
Don't Google it, people.
I'm not Googling. Southampton.
No.
Sheffield United.
There we go. I was going to say you're on the right track with the colours there. Cool. Right. So yeah, that was the quiz.
I was just trying to remember how many teams we put 4 or 5 past last year. Anyway, sorry.
I think you scored. Was it the second goal or something of the game or something, wasn't it? Or something like that, I think. If I remember rightly. It was like a 4-2 or something stupid like that. Anyway, yeah. Doesn't matter. Quiz over. Well done. So, what I was going to ask in that last part, which we're now doing now, top 3 from yesterday, because it is a struggle, isn't it? We've just been talking about how great the kind of team was and how much we were before the pod started anyway. I'm going to go in with mine. I'll give it first and I'll see. But yeah, as much as I love Murphy, I love what he did yesterday, I'm not going to put him in my top 3 for yesterday. So I'm going to do it in no particular order because I actually can't decide. But my top 3 are Gordon, Tonali and Hall. So, with complete silence, I'm going to go to Kev next. Who's yours? If you're going to pick 3.
I agree with Hall and Tonali. I think they were brilliant. And then I'm stuck between... I thought Bruno was so good. There was a couple of passes into Isaac. And I just thought, God, I love playing further forward. Because when Bruno's played kind of more on 8, he's got 2 assists against Liverpool and a goal against Leicester. But then I'm tempted to give it to Jacob Murphy. 4 goals in his last... Or 4 goal contributions in his last 2 games. I'm going to go Hall, Tonali, and Bruno. Bruno was really good, I thought.
Interesting. I can't argue with Hall. I can't argue with Tonali. He looks class at number 6, doesn't he? And if it frees Bruno up to play some of those bowls, fantastic. Even Joe Linton played a fabulous ball through from Tonali, put it through. Isaac should have scored. There's my third man is Alex Isak. He was unplayable for the time he was on the pitch.
He was very good.
He scored a pretty ordinary goal. He should have scored a few more, I think. But when he's running at the Leicester centre halves, he teed up Murphy, and actually it looked like he blasted it over the bar, but it was actually a really, really good save. The ref didn't see that it was saved, but then 2 minutes later, that's where that created Murphy's second goal. And Isak in that mood that's the 100 million player that Arsenal want. Not the guy stood on the wing whinging, which we saw Crystal Palace. But hey, this is a positive podcast. That's the form he's in now.
No negativity. We're good. We're good.
Of course, Isak was unplayable at certain times yesterday, I thought.
He was. But that's why I think the top 3 is interesting. So I think if you speak to so many people, I think people, I struggled because I had to just pick 3 because I thought it's going to be a rule, obviously. But that's what's great about Saturday. Like, it was such a great team game. Majority, if not pretty much all of them had. I mean, Hall was just outstanding again, man. Like you said, Tonali in that position, which we'll touch on again in a minute, by the way. But yeah, there's just so many aspects and so many different people that we could have picked. So it's quite good that in a way we've kind of all settled on 2 of the same, and then we've just swapped out the third. But yeah, it'd be interesting, I think to ask a lot of people who their top 3 would be from yesterday, because I think it will differ a lot because a lot of them are great.
I think you've got to do a mention for Dan Burn. Not only solid as a rock, I mean, the whole of the defence was good. They never gave up a chance, because that was the same start to a match we had against Brighton, the same start that we had against West Ham. It was just that we had a defensive lapse and went behind and then fell to pieces. If we'd let Leicester score after 15 minutes, who knows how that game would have turned out. but they never put a foot wrong. And I noticed that Burn is an integral part of how much we go up the left-hand side. He's very quick to get that ball out to Hall, and he steps up to take it back on the inside as well. So who would have thought that Dan Burn would be part of our attacking machine? But he is. He's an integral
He
part
is.
of it. Hall and Gordon start to look like they've got some sort of telepathic understanding, and I think Joe Linton was in there as well, doing his thing with them as well. So I think it looks very good. If they needed a rocket up their backside to play like that against a lesser team, then I suggest Eddie rocket up a backside session every Saturday morning.
I think, to be fair, Bruno, people question Bruno as a captain, but I think I said it on a previous pod before the Leicester game that there was harsh conversations, and Bruno came out and said, like, our friendship doesn't get in the way of home truths. And again, we don't know what really happened, but there was, a lot of reporters saying Bruno had some harsh words for the team. He gets loads of stick for being captain, and everyone said it's affecting his performance and stuff, but I actually think there's a lot of good things as Bruno's captain, which nobody mentioned. So he definitely deserves a little bit of recognition for probably stepping in at the right time after that disappointing game against Brentford. And I think he just looks unbelievable as number 8. I think him, Tonali, and Joe Linton have finally gelled. I said it would happen. I said it would take patience. I'm not that I told you so type person, but I did tell everybody.
Do it, Kev, do it.
It was patience. It was just we needed patience, and now we can play. We did it against Liverpool. We've done it against Leicester, and before anybody asks us, Tonali didn't start against Brentford. So yeah, the last 2 games they've all started together. It looks like, touch wood, they might have finally learned how to play together.
They have. So I'm going to stop you there because I'm going to ask for an ad off Ian, because that will, as we love to say, segue us into the exact conversation that I was going to bring up about Tonali and Bruno in their position. So go for it, Ian, please, with the first ad.
Do you have a story to tell that the world needs to hear? Have you struggled with reaching new audiences who are engaged with your story? It might be time for you to start a podcast. Let me tell you about a platform we use here at Global Sports Podcast Network. Zencastr makes it easy to start a high-quality podcast built for growth from day one. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes ums, ahs, you knows, and 22 other speech patterns, Zencastr makes it super easy to start a podcast that sounds great. Ready to tell your story? Check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr.
Thank you very much, Ian. Nice and cool and calm as always. Right. Segueing as we do into the next part. So again, going back to front, we are in the middle part of it. So I was naturally going to talk about Bruno going as a more forward role, Tonali sitting as our 6. We've all talked about how many times of when they've, up until now, obviously, how they're going to work together. They don't seem to know where they want to be. One of them sits back, the other one goes forward. They're constantly switching. For the first time this season, we saw it work perfectly, absolutely harmoniously. Whether this is something that they've now been almost told in training, because you've got to assume at some point Eddie's got to hold them and be like, look, this is what we're going to have to do, guys. There's no more switching it up. There's no more kind of, you might go forward 1 second, you the next. Tonali needs to be on number 6. Bruno needs to have that more kind of free forward role. He's just so much more effective, I think. Don't get us wrong, he can play the 6 role, obviously, and this is the kind of problem that we did have, didn't we? Because they are very similar players, but to see them work so brilliantly on Saturday, that's now the solution. That's now got to be what they do moving forward. Who then plays alongside them, whether it's Big Joe, which is obviously the preference, Joe Willock, Longstaff, all that's obviously going to be on availability and all that sort of thing, isn't it, really? But you've got to assume that Big Joe is the one. And it was a funny one, because, when you see the team sheet coming out and you saw the 3 of them in the middle, I can't remember who I said it to. I think it was my mate Leanne, because I was still waiting for everyone else to join us in the pub. And I was like, this is going to be it. I was like, this is going to be the day. I don't know. I feel like this is going to be the time that the 3 of them work. I don't know whether I was doing it out of sheer hope because it hadn't worked so far, but it worked. So fantastic. Kev, obviously, I know you've just touched a bit on it. So Ian, I'll come to you. What's your thoughts? I mean, I'm assuming you do agree, but yeah, what's your thoughts on kind of Tonali sitting as our 6 and Bruno
Yeah,
going forward more?
I thought the signs were there against Liverpool. I think it worked pretty
Yeah.
well against Liverpool, to be fair. But what I had said a week or two ago was that I thought that maybe Bruno, having been our main central midfield man at number 6 or number 8 for the last couple of years. Maybe he just needs to actually let go of that, to allow Tonali, to trust Tonali, to be able to be secure at the back and focus on getting a bit further forward. And it does look as if he's doing that now, because there were a lot of 10, 15-yard balls from Tonali to Bruno, who turned and spread it or put a through ball through or knocked it out wide. And I like that. The main problem of this first part of the season for me, watching them, has been the tortuously slow progression of the ball when we've won it back in our half to get it up to their box. That's because all the balls have been sideways. I know not all of them. 95% of the balls have been sideways or backwards, and there weren't very many like that on Saturday. People were looking up and knocking the ball forward, and I think that's because they've got to start trusting each other. Maybe Bruno's cleared the air with his harsh words to everybody, but I much prefer watching Newcastle at home with that aggressive front foot mindset. Let's hope that they can do it to the smaller teams away from home. That's what your Manchester Cities and your Liverpools do. They attack every game in the same way,
Not
and
quite
they tend
City
to
right
win them
now.
all. Not like City right now, no. Well, I think that's a bit of an aberration, to be honest. But I'm talking over the last
Massive.
5 years. That's the way they approach every game, and everybody expects Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester City to win, whether they're playing at home or away, because generally they do. That's down to the mindset of how they approach it.
No, I'll be honest, just bang on, I'll be honest. But another thing, Kev, I can come back to you in a second, so I don't know if you've got more to say about the Bruno and Tonali thing, but I'll kind of tee you up for all of it and you can talk about all of it, was the Hall and Gordon combination on the left. Because like I said, Gordon was in my top 3 along with Hall. And I just think they are so brilliant together. They've made such a fantastic partnership down the left. And I think it does stand out. I know we've talked about Gordon playing on the right sometimes and this, that and the other, but we all know he is best on the left. But he works beautifully with Hall. And Hall is much like, I don't know why we've talked about it being like a back 3 and having Tino and Hall more as like wing backs, because they do like to push forward, don't they? But it works so well in conjunction with what Gordon can do for the team as well. So we witnessed that yesterday as well. So again, just an all-round kind of fantastic performance from them too. But you go loose on that one now. What's your overall thoughts there?
Being
On
in the
all
mood
4 of
of
those people.
being in the mood of saying I told you so. I think, you know what, Eddie and Jason and Bruno and everybody came under scrutiny from, I'm still going to say, a small minority of fans, because I don't want to give them too much credit or mentions on a positive podcast. But they got it right. Look, we scored from a corner, right, which everyone was banging on about for ages. We haven't scored from a corner. It was something new. It was creative. Gordon with the overlap and then the pull back to Murphy. Brilliant. Love to see it. And then we scored from a free kick when Hall's put it kind of back across. I think it was Bruno's goal, actually, where we headed back across the goal mouth and Bruno's tapped it in. So we've scored from a free kick. We've clearly been working butts off. I say we haven't, but Eddie and Tyndall and the players have clearly been working their butts off and training on set pieces, because we've scored off 2 of them. Then we've said it from day dot pretty much on this podcast of Hall didn't play very much last year, so it's going to take him time to get to know his teammates and gel. Same with Tonali, same with these players. Barnes was one of them ones we put in there. And it's finally coming good, like you said. Hall and Gordon look like we're finally clicking. And I think it's time to give, it's no surprise this is coming from me, but where all of these fans, give Howe and Tyndall the credit then, because we've worked our butts off on free kicks, we've worked our butts off on corners. Tonali and Bruno are finally playing together. Hall and Gordon have a partnership now down the left, which looks promising. So where is all the comments on social media of, you know what, fair play, we haven't been great recently, but we've clearly been working really hard to put it right. And again, don't get me wrong, it was Leicester, and I'm hoping this wasn't just a reaction to Brentford and we go back to normal. I hope it sticks now, and I hope it's right. We've learned our lessons from previous, where we've beat Arsenal and Chelsea, but then lost to whoever was next. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm trying to wipe it off. I think we beat Forest and lost to Brighton or West Ham. So look, we have to learn from it, and we have to make sure we are consistent going forward. But it's football, isn't it? Critics are always louder than anybody who's willing to praise anybody, but I think they've worked tirelessly to get it right. Go on, Ian.
I was just going to say, I agree entirely. I nearly butted in to say, let's not forget, this was Leicester, and they were woeful. They really were appalling. Like I said, if they had had something about them, like a Bowen about them, um, or the Brighton forward line about them, where they could have made a break and scored, it could have been different. It could have been the same performance as those losses, where we get knocked off our stride, but they didn't threaten at all. Um,
But were
Dubravka's could
we
have
not
got.
just really good? Because
Oh
Leicester beat
yeah,
West Ham
yeah.
3-1 at home, and we
I'll
drew
say
with
that,
Brighton.
Kev.
Drew with
Yeah.
Brighton 2-2. We beat West Ham. We didn't beat West Ham at home. We beat West Ham at
Oh
home
well,
3-2.
well.
So we were in good
Alongside
form.
what I'm saying, Kev, I know that we got 1 point out of 6 last year from Luton,
Yeah.
uh, and I don't want to go through the disappointing home draws that we went through last year. I've already lived them. I don't want to go through them again. But yeah, so I'll just reserve judgment that this is not just a flash in the pan and a reaction to negative comments coming out of the
Yeah,
Brentford
that's what I
game.
hope so.
I think they've got another opportunity against a newly promoted side next week. Let's see how they do that away from home. Because to be honest, on paper, I know they don't play matches on paper, but on paper, Ipswich is a side that we should be dealing with in the same way as we dealt with Leicester,
Blowing
whether
them
we're
away
playing
quite
them at
literally,
home
isn't it?
or away. So let's see how we get on with that.
No, you're spot on, Ian. The real test is next weekend, isn't it? Because I think realistically, and I hope none of us are wrong, obviously, it's not being cocky or anything, but I think everyone expects Wednesday night against Brentford to be very similar to the Leicester game as well, don't we? Even though Brentford away wasn't exactly kind of same team, ironically, but I think a lot more is expected at home. It's as simple as that. However, we can't then go away to Ipswich and just dip massively. We can't. So that is the real test. We're not naive. We're not stupid. We're loyal to the cause, Geordies. Don't get us wrong, but we're also not daft in the fact that we know what the team are like, man. We have to laugh about it sometimes. I think sometimes you just laugh through the pain, don't you, over the years? But
Well, I was going to say, when you look at previous years, Derby County, I think, went down with the lowest points tally ever and they beat us. That was the only home game they won that season, and it was against
well,
us.
didn't the Mackems on theirs as well? Like
Yeah,
on their
something
lowest ever
ridiculous.
season? Because they were laughing
Kenny Miller with a volley hits 1 in 5 million. I remember Billy Davies was a manager. I was in a pub on holiday going absolutely mental. Oh, awful. So it's got Newcastle
yeah, of
upset
course it
written
is.
all over it, hasn't it? But
Of course it is.
let's hope that it's not like I said and like Ian referred to and like you just referred to. Let's hope that it's not just a reaction and it is now a consistent way forward, because if we can be consistent this season, there's still an outside chance. I mean, everyone forgets Champions League could be top 5, depending on that extra European place and where it goes this year. Could be top 5. We're not a million miles away from 5th. And again, you look at the state of the league at the minute, there's nobody being consistent other than Liverpool, who are only semi-consistent. So there's just no consistency in the league. If we can put a little run together, I think it'll be absolutely fantastic going
We'll be
forward.
all right, man. Come on.
There's still a ton
We
of
always
games.
try to stay as positive as ever, don't we, really? But there's I know, Ian, you're just about to say there. There
We're
is plenty
3 or
left,
4
isn't there?
points. We're 3 or 4 points off the Champions League places, and we've
Yeah.
still got everybody to play again.
We have.
We're not even halfway through. So yeah, I'm not thinking it's an outside chance. I still think we're in a group of 10 teams chasing the last 2 Champions League places. Because I'm not sure City are
We'll
going to
not
be
be one of the
making
ones
it
that
their
fall
own.
away, because some will fall away. We're not going to be one of them. But anyway, we're staying positive. We're going to get the last ad out of the way, and then we're going to finish up with what we were going to start with at the start. So, Kev, can I have the second ad, please?
Yeah, keeping it retro with Ian's old advert, I'll go down the original JSPM one. This podcast is part of a global sports podcast network, the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts the fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. Global Sports Podcast Network, every club, every day.
Thank you very much, Kev. See, the OG3 with the OG adverts. So
that's exactly it was planned.
It was planned, wasn't it? So yeah, how I was going to start the pod is kind of how we're now going to end the pod, but that's fine because we're almost teed it up on what we've just been talking about anyway. So what I was going to ask you guys is just like your favorite things from yesterday. So what I kind of mean about that, I'll give you mine, and then you'll see what I'm rambling on about. So obviously, apart from being overly excited about my boy Murphy getting 2, what I loved about it was, in particular, coming out and smashing it in the second half. Because what I did say at half time when we're 1-0 up, I was like, what we need to not do right now is do what we've done in the last few games and come out poorly, or just like we can't be bothered, let's say, in the second half. I say it's because we are winning. We need to keep a hold of this, but we need to be a bit stronger, because even Eddie said, like, we should have really been more than 1-0 up at half time sort of thing. So we didn't. We did smash it. So that's definitely one of my kind of favourite aspects of yesterday, how we actually got better instead of getting worse. So again, a massive positive moving forward, I would say. We've already talked about, so I won't ramble on too much, but Tonali and Bruno gelling was right up there for me. But as I say, because we're doing this pod back to front, we've talked about it already. So, and the third thing was going to be a bit what Kev's just touched on there. Our lads finally doing what we've known that they could do the whole time, and putting our frustrations to bed for now. Because like we've just said, we want the real frustrations put to bed against Ipswich, for example. But coming out, you look at our team, you talk about teams on paper, like you've just said, Ian. Like, I'm not going to use world class because none of our team are, because world class is a whole different level to me. But we've got some really top class players on our team. And when they play well, look at what they can do. Like yesterday, like against Liverpool. So what we need now is just that consistency that we know we can. I think, if I'm honest, I think that's where the more sensible fans have just been more frustrated than anything else. I try to ignore the idiots out there, I'll be honest, who just spout absolute nonsense or just shout, Eddie out. Sack them, sell them. Like, shut up, man, will you? Just have a normal conversation. You can be frustrated with a team. You can be angry at players. Because, yeah, we know how good they are, but they showed how good they were yesterday, and that was the main thing for me. So that was kind of my happiness overall. It was like just to pinpoint little few things, if you know what I mean. So there's plenty more to say about yesterday. So would you guys pick anything else along the lines of what I've just done, if you know what I mean, as being like your favourite moments or favourite things about the game, if you know what I mean?
Go on, Ian.
Shall I go first?
Yeah.
I loved the fact that the game is won after an hour, and Eddie's able to take Bruno off, take Gordon off, a little bit later take Isak off to get them properly rested, so they're revved up for the Brentford game. What that meant was that we could see Harvey Barnes coming down the right, wondering whether he works on that. He had 4 shots in that 20 minutes that he was on for, one of which was teed up by a very muscular, unbullyable young centre forward called Will Osula, who I was really pleased he got 20 odd minutes run out. I thought he looked quite good.
Yeah.
A couple of runs where you think he's second favourite to get to the ball and he knocked their centre halves over to be able to win the ball. So in compensation, after an hour thinking, oh, Eddie's took all the good players off, so we're just going to see this game out, I saw lots of little green shoots and glimmers of hope in the players that he brought on. And I felt so sorry for Tonali when he did that little flip over his head and then volleyed and it went into the side netting. It would have
That
been
would have
great
been
for that to have been
unbelievable.
Wouldn't it?
for the 5th goal. He deserved it as well. But yeah, so those things after the jeopardy of the game is finished, if you like, so you could sit back and relax. I was really pleased with a number of things, and I do think, certainly against most teams, Ottila is ready to take on the Callum Wilson coming on after an hour role if we need him.
Good point. I think for me, it was, we went for the throat again and we went to absolutely kill a team, which was nice to see. I know last season we scored the most goals I think we've ever scored in the Premier League season, so I'm not even going to mention the 8-0s against Sheffield United and all that stuff. But you look at the season before that, when we finished 4th, I'm looking at some of the results now. We beat Everton 4-1, Tottenham 6-1. We beat West Ham United 5-1. We beat Fulham 4-1, Brentford 5-1, Villa 4-0, 4-1 against Southampton. And that was the season before last when we didn't have our highest ever goal. So I loved that we scored the second and went for the third. We scored the third, we went for the fourth. We scored the fourth. We did try and get a fifth, but by then there was a lot of changes made and we started to think about Wednesday in the quarterfinal. So I loved that we were ruthless again, and I loved that we were clinical. I love that we went for the throat. We didn't just sit deeper and think we're defensively good enough. I love that. And I think we've got 9 goals now the last 3 games. So again, even though the last 3 games, I mean, the Liverpool result was a good one, the Brentford one was terrible, and the Leicester was really good. Even though it's not all clicking at the moment, we've scored 9 goals now the last 3 games. That's a sign of the old Eddie Howe team. That's a sign of the team last year who got the most goals we ever scored. The team the season before who got some of the results I've just mentioned. So like I say, I was really, really happy with that. We didn't just get 2 or 3 and up and just think, we'll keep the ball or we'll rest. It was like get a 4th, get a 5th, which was really nice to see. That was my biggest, happiest moment, so to speak. It was like the old Newcastle United.
It was. It's been brilliant to see, hasn't it, really? As I say, come on, we've got to keep our heads up at this point, keep our tails up and keep positive. Like you say, all these neg heads, as I call them, online or wherever else you want to speak to them, but they're pretty quiet at the minute. It's kind of nice. I did see some absolute idiot, as you always do, commenting on, it was like the little compilation of Murphy's 2 goals, which I was going to share on the socials, but I thought, you know what it is, it'll end up being like done for copywriting or something, so I haven't bothered sharing it. But anyway, I stupidly click on the comments. I don't know why I do it. And there was still a guy slating Murphy, slating that he shouldn't be part of the team. And when you go to reply to someone, I thought, no, Joanne, don't. And I just shut my phone down because I thought that's going to end up in a massive argument, and I'm going to get myself riled over someone that's not worth it.
They were slating him around me. We were like, he was getting. He did miss 2 sitters. Well, not sitters, but
man,
were on
but
his
this is
left
where
foot, and he was getting absolutely
his weaker foot.
hammered. But I think the players definitely hear it. You look at Anthony Gordon's celebration against Liverpool with the whole keep talking or whatever. And I think when Jacob Murphy scored his first, he ran into the Gallagher shouting "what" and like pointing to his "what," like tell us again I'm not good enough things I've scored.
Exactly.
So the fact that I say all the time that the fans have a massive impact. The players definitely hear it. I think my funniest thing I saw was it's like a big breaking news post and it said Newcastle United fans have decided that we want Eddie Howe to stay at the club until we lose the next game and then we'll want them out. And I thought, brilliant. That's the best way to look at it. But yeah,
but it's true though. I mean, come on,
there were 4 excellent goals, by the way, and
they were.
The groundwork was prepared and the chance was created for them to score at least 4 more brilliant goals. None of
100%.
this sort of ball dropping from a half cleared corner and a bit of a melee and someone toe poking it in. That's what we want. We want them. That they're all planned. Those goals are all planned.
They were,
and it's really because that's setting a challenge for the people that we're playing. If we are doing that, it's not random. That is us in control right the way through to scoring again and again and again. And that's what we want.
Absolutely agree. I'll be honest, we will wrap it up, but the one thing I want to end on is something that Kev touched on before earlier. People talk about Leicester being poor in that game, or were we just so good that we controlled the game and Leicester, as poor as they were, couldn't get into the game at all? That's my take on it.
You look at Leicester's 2 previous results before they played us, and we've took 4 points from West Ham and Brighton, 2 teams who we took 0. We took 0 points. We took 0 points from them teams, and they've took 4. So, yeah, I agree. Leicester weren't at their best. Of course they weren't. I'm not going to sit here and say Leicester were brilliant because we know they weren't. But I think a lot of it is down to how we were set up and how good we were defensively, which Ian referred to previously. And but I think it's right. We don't get carried away. We've seen Newcastle respond to bad results already this season and look really good against Nottingham Forest, look really good against Arsenal and Chelsea in the Cup. So we've seen us respond. We now want to know that this isn't a response and this is now going to be, hopefully, as close as it can be, our consistent level. Because like I say, this is the most unpredictable Premier League in years. Anybody can beat anybody this season. So like our point away to Bournemouth looks brilliant now. When we first drew away to Bournemouth, what on earth? Bournemouth have beat Arsenal at home. We've beat Man City at home. So that point now looks like a very good point. Not many people are going to Bournemouth and taking anything away. So look, it's an unpredictable season. Let's hope we can get an element of consistency now. We're not going to be that good all the time, but can we be close to it? That's the target, I think.
True. And on that lovely note, we're going to sign off. It's been a pleasure, as always, speaking to you two, and no doubt we'll see you very soon.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.